All right, so I was absolutely terrible with recording because this splitter project took way too long. Overall, I'm happy with the outcome, but man, I probably have 40 hours into it between getting it fitted, making the air dam, everything. It just seemed like it took forever and ever. Anyway, I want to show you guys the overall outcome. You can see my breath probably. It's cold out here. It's -8 degrees outside right now in St. Louis. And right now the shop is at a whopping, 25 degrees. So just gonna show you guys a quick little update. I know this has been a pretty cool project for me. I've done a little bit more high-class work on this go-around than I have normally. So anyway, let's dive in. So you've seen the splitter before. Finally got all the splitter ramps mounted up. So this track here, I had on my 3D scan the overall outline right along this edge right here. And I tracked that straight down, and that's where I put this garden edging. When I did that, it caused the edges of these bumpers here to kind of pull down like that. I really hated that, so I wallowed out the holes, kind of allowed it to float a little bit, and then I came through and tightened them all down once the bumper was good. I also had to come in here, and right now I don't have both of them, but instead of using just the Phillips screw with the little retainer up here, put a nice washer on there with some fender bolts. I also added these little support straps. This one's not in yet, but basically it pinches and kind of closes up this gap right here in the bumper. Again, this whole thing was pulling down. So got that good. Also added these shock absorbers. Went on McMaster. They were, I think, like 18 bucks a pop. Anyway, I needed like 14.5 inches extended. So far, so good. Used the old T-clamp or T-mounts from that splitter over there. Overall, splitter looks good. Had to do some repair because while I was sanding it, this flaked off. So I got to sand this still before we paint it. But everything mounts up really nice. And then I siliconed the leading edge of the diffuser fins, and I sanded down this bottom part to kind of help ease it around. There's some knots in the wood, so it wasn't as perfect as I liked, but it'll do the job perfect for what we need to do. The side supports, I'm using the cables that I used on that splitter. I just drilled holes through this, the main support for this, and it seems like it's gonna work out really good. On the rear of my splitter, I use these little L brackets from the steering rack. Right now, I have to mount the splitter to the bottom side before it went to the top side. I am thinking about making these L brackets again and basically just extending them down the thickness of that material. I could probably just weld in, a 1/4 inch worth of material. We'll see what I feel like doing. It does allow the splitter to not go backwards when it's resting right there. So that is something that I need to do, but for right now, it seems like it's going pretty dang good. Don't know if I showed this in the last video, but I went to the junkyard and found some good Miata parts. Found this really nice front fender without a hole in it. The issue is, this is a painted on pinstripe. I tried removing it, found out it's paint, not just a vinyl decal. So that kind of sucks. In that last clip, you probably noticed there was no expansion tank, and that is because I have the degas bottle mounted here in the rear. It's actually kind of cool. Reused some of the original factory bumper backing. It ended up working perfect. So I just used one of the factory mounts for, I think that's the trunk spring, to help keep the trunk up. So I have that mounted there. And then I just had to drill out this hole in the degas tank, and it fits right on the battery box. I already ordered, and I already got all the hose. I'm still waiting on some fittings for to route all this stuff to the back. So we'll have a total of 3 hoses going to that degas bottle. So this one will be going to the topmost port on the degas bottle. And then I have this steam port here, and then the wastegate coolant line return. Those will come together, tee off, I actually got a Y, and then route to the back, and that'll go to this lower portion, or lower nipple on the degas bottle. This will be the radiator the radiator expansion line, and then this will be from the steam port and the wastegate return. There is one more port down here. It is a 1-inch line, and that'll go to the top of the thermostat. Now down here, this line right here currently loops to the top of the thermostat. That'll be our new feed for this wastegate cooling line. And if I ever upgrade a turbo that requires cooling, I'll have to Y off of that, and that'll be the coolant feed. But for right now, it's just going to cool this wastegate. And then again, that reroutes to the back of the tank. So there should always be a good flow from the steam port and the wastegate going back to the degas bottle and then back through to the top of the thermostat. So along with that project is also going to be tightening up all the fuel line mounting. And of course, we're routing 3 new lines to the back. I want to make sure all those lines are really securely mounted, routed in a great place. That way I don't have to worry about, whenever I'm racing, about those lines chafing or rubbing on something and causing issues down the road. So that is another part of this project, is cleaning up some of the fuel line routing. Right now they're held to the trans tunnel with P clamps, and overall I just don't like those. So this is my solution. So I have these 2 clamps that I've been messing around with on 3D printers. So this is for the fuel lines. Both of those, I have 2 -8 lines going to the back. Well, I guess coming from the front, and then 1 going back. So basically there will be a through bolt to clamp this part together. And then I'll use one of the existing 10mm holes or ports to mount this to the actual chassis. Now this, I have 3 different sizes just because I was simply going for a proof of concept and to see which size fits best for my hose. So I need to remake this, and I'll start printing a bunch of these. But basically this is going to allow me to run those 2 3/8 coolant lines from the top of the radiator, and then the steam and wastegate return, and then also the big 3/4 inch line from the wastegate, or from the top of the thermostat. So this is the 3/4 inch line. It's pretty big. I don't even know if I'll be able to make a clamp that'll fit this. But I also said down there at the degas bottle, the bottom is 1 inch. So this is that 1 inch line. So I have an adapter to go from 3/4 to 1 inch. And then the other line is over here. So this is 3/8 heater hose. I got enough to do plenty. It seems like a pretty nice hose. It's Gates 3270 safety stripe. So once all those fittings come in, I'll start recording, and we can start routing. All right, so got most of all this finished. Just need to get some hose clamps and finish up. So here's the wastegate return and steam port. Got this nice little Y. Tried routing it as nice as I can. Got this line going back down, and it ties in to the other line, which is from the radiator overflow. Got that routed nice. And then that'll run up here underneath the intake manifold and down. So they'll meet back there. And let me show you how we have it all routed up here into the back of the tank. So drilled some holes, and then I need to fix up these grommets a little bit more, do something a little bit more permanent. This is my 3D printed hose clamp that I have. This one's permanent. I'm waiting on some more to print. That way I can do it underneath the car. This is actually a Miata thermostat hose that I had laying around. It ended up being a good little 90-degree instead of I had a 1 inch hose that was just going to look like it was kink. So using this factory 90, it kind of S's off. So I cut off part of the other 90, and it turned out pretty good. I did have to drill a hole. Luckily there were already a set of holes back there. Right back there, I know you probably can't see. There's already a set of holes from the bolt-in cage that this car had in before I owned it. It was basically just a 4-point cage. Anyway, I drilled out one of those holes large enough, and then I routed this line here. So I spilled coolant all over the garage floor, so I'll show you guys that at another time. But I also got this coolant line routed up, so I got that replaced. And now it's just a matter of getting some hose clamps, tightening it up, and we're good to go. I'm pretty happy with how this all turned out. I was kind of worried it was going to look ugly, but overall it looks good. Also got that hose down here, which is the feed for the wastegate. That's the factory turbo coolant feed, so that's good. Kind of reusing all that stuff as much as factory as possible. So anyway, looking good. And that's that. Now it is just a bunch of buttoning up down underneath. It's cramped on the driver's side of the trans tunnel all the way through. I have 2 fuel lines. I have the fuel filter. Now I have a 3/4 inch coolant line going back, and then 2 3/8 coolant lines going back. There's a lot of stuff going on over there. So once I get all these clamps printed out, we'll be installing those and basically trying to make it all look really good and secure. That was one of my biggest things with wanting to do this whole project and designing these clamps, is making a system or designing a part that is specific to my application, so I don't have to worry about hoses rubbing on stuff, especially whenever I want to do road course stuff here soon. So anyway, I'm finished up with this project and we got the coolant rerouted. One more step off the list.